Okay, let's talk about Nicolas Cage. What's the first thing that pops into your head? The Oscar winner? The action hero? Or, the guy who's basically a living, breathing internet meme of pure chaos? Well, the thing is, he's all of that. And a whole lot more. So today, we're going to try and unpack the legend, the man who's just as famous for his wild personality as he is for his acting. To really get a handle on this guy, you've got to start with his sheer audacity. So get this, a young Nick Cage is on a plane with Charlie Sheen. He somehow gets on the airplane's PA system and just deadpan delivers this announcement. I mean, can you imagine? The pilot was, let's just say he was not happy, told him it was not cool. But for Cage, yeah, sounds about right. Just another Tuesday. And right there, that story kind of sums it all up, doesn't it? It gets to the big question. Is he just some chaotic prankster who loves to stir things up? Or is there a real, honest-to-God artistic method behind all the madness? Is he actually out of control? Or is he the one in total control of how we see him? Which brings us perfectly to our first section here, the Nicolas Cage paradox. Because really, to figure out who he is, you first have to understand who he was so desperately trying not to be. Yup, his birth name, Nicolas Kim Coppola. We're talking filmmaking royalty. He's the nephew of Francis Ford Coppola, the director of The Godfather. And he's cousins with people like Sofia Coppola and Jason Schwartzman. I mean, he was born into one of the biggest dynasties in Hollywood, period. And what does he do? He completely walks away from it. After just one small role, he changes his last name to Cage. And he got that name from the Marvel superhero Luke Cage. He just flat out refused to ride the coattails of the Coppola name. Nope. He was gonna build his own thing, from the ground up, all because he loved comic books. All right, so let's see how this independent streak feeds into his creative process, which is, to call it unconventional is putting it mildly. This is where things get really interesting, where that line between the man and the character he's playing just gets super blurry. Okay, let's take his version of The Wicker Man. I mean, it is legendary for how absolutely bonkers it is. The bees, the part where he punches a woman in a bear suit. Critics basically said it was a comedy by accident. But Cage's take? Oh no. He says he and the director always meant for it to be a dark comedy. He just takes what everyone else sees as a total failure and spins it as a deliberate artistic choice. You gotta admire the nerve. So how in the world does he come up with these performances? Well, his method is it's the stuff of Hollywood legend. For Ghostwriter, he said he studied his pet, cobras. Yeah, cobras. He wanted to copy how they would sort of hypnotize him before they struck. He also bought a $150,000 octopus. Why? To help with his acting, of course. And then there's Vampire's Kiss. It was his idea, not the director's, to eat a real live cockroach on camera. And he did it twice. And believe me, it does not stop there. For a love scene in that same movie, Vampire's Kiss, he had someone pour hot yogurt on his toes. To prep for a Ghostwriter sequel, he apparently went and slept in Dracula's actual castle. And, sometimes the weirdness just comes to him. While he was filming Bringing Out the Dead, he was stalked, nonstop, by a mime. A mime. I mean, you literally can't make this stuff up. So, all this intensity you see on screen, it's not just for the camera. Oh no, it spills right over into his personal life. Let's dive into a life that's just full of these lavish and, frankly, completely baffling extremes. $276,000. That is how much he paid for a dinosaur skull. A Tyrannosaurus bataar skull, to be exact. And get this, he outbid Leonardo DiCaprio to get it. But the story gets even crazier. Turns out, the skull was stolen from Mongolia, so Cage had to give it back, and he never got that $276,000 back. Ouch. And that was just the beginning, really. This is a guy who bought not one, but two castles in Europe, a collection of shrunken pygmy heads, and the La Laurie Mansion in New Orleans, which is supposedly the most haunted house in America. He said he bought it hoping it would inspire him to write a horror novel. In the end, though, he ran into money problems and had to sell it. Even his love life is all about extremes. The first time he met Patricia Arquette, he proposed right then and there. She, probably a bit shocked, gave him this list of impossible quests to prove his love, like getting J.D. Salinger's autograph. And he actually started doing them. Now you compare that to his marriage in 2019 to Erica Koike, which he tried to annul after just 4 days. 4 days. And again, it's like the weirdness is drawn to him. He tells the story about waking up in the middle of the night, And there's a naked guy in his house, wearing his leather jacket, eating a fudgesicle. So what does Cage do? He just calmly talks the guy into leaving. And then he sold the house. Immediately. Can't say I blame him. Okay, so let's try and pull all of this together. Because this isn't just a bunch of random, weird stories. You could make a really strong case that Nicolas Cage's greatest role, his greatest performance of all, is creating the myth of Nicolas Cage. I mean, look at this. This is how he's thinking about his legacy, even after he's gone. In a famous cemetery in New Orleans, there's this huge 9-foot-tall pyramid tomb. It's totally empty, and it's waiting for him. It's just such a bizarre, powerful statement to make, especially in a city like New Orleans.
And on the tomb, there's a Latin phrase, omnia ob uno. It means everything from one. And that's it, isn't it? That's his whole philosophy right there. From this one, unique, kind of crazy guy, we get all of it. The art, the chaos, the whole legend. Everything from one.
And this whole quest for mythology, it actually became a literal thing for him. He got so into it after his National Treasure movies that he went on his own real-life quest for the Holy Grail. That's why he bought those castles. He was actually seriously looking for mythical artifacts. He literally turned his own life into a Nicolas Cage movie. Now, he did end up having to sell all those places because of money troubles, but he says he doesn't regret any of it. He says, for him, it wasn't about finding the Grail, it was about the search. The journey was the treasure. And that philosophy, I mean, that just seems to sum up his whole career, doesn't it? So where does that leave us? What do we make of all this? We've looked at the paradox, his wild creative process, his extreme personal life, and this incredible myth-making he does. And it all points to one simple fact. There is only one Nicolas Cage, and there will only ever be one. You know, a few years back, this photo from the 1870s popped up online, and it's of a guy who looks exactly like him. So naturally, the internet went wild with theories that he's a vampire or maybe a time traveler. And when someone asked him about it, he just leaned right into it. He just smiled and said the resemblance is suspicious. See? He's always in on the joke. And that really brings us to a final thought. After this whole life spent searching for legends and creating his own myth, maybe we're asking the wrong question. Maybe it's not about whether Nicolas Cage ever found the Holy Grail. Maybe, after all this wild, incredible, unforgettable life, maybe he became it. A real, honest-to-goodness, modern-day legend.